And let's do this, America. That's right, kids. This is the Mike Sevilla podcast for Wednesday, February 3, 2016. It's February already. Check me out at drmikesevilla.com. And as always, our good friend, Dr. Gerry Tolbert from geekdad.com is joining me. How you doing there, Jerry?
Excellent. How are you, Mike?
Good. It's just the first month is over of the year. And, we're just kind of barreling closer. Countdown to NCCL 2016, afp.org/leader. We're going to start with our top story again tonight. And who better to give us an update is the man, the myth, the legend, the chair, the convener, Dr. Gerry Tolbert. What do you have for us? Any big updates you have for us, or anything you want to talk about NCCL this year?
So we just had our biggest deadline to date, and the convener, that'd be me, has been slipping. I didn't get a chance this week to call Utah, but I got to call Utah and talk to them. But we had assigned states to each of our co-conveners to start doing some, beating the bushes and drumming up some delegates to come for all of the different major constituencies. There are 5 major constituencies that we talk about, and so we try to encourage each state to bring full delegations, as we say, so bringing one from each different group to represent each different special interest group that's part of the NCCL. And we have 4 officially confirmed full delegations from that list, and a bunch of potential full delegations that are going to be coming through. So really exciting there. Yeah, exactly. It's always good to have as many people as possible that are going to represent, just like we talked about the last time. This is a great chance for people that don't normally have a voice to get a voice, and we want to make sure that they're heard. And so having a representative gives that ability. We also have Marie Ramos, who is the new physician member of the board, has in our Google document or Google spreadsheet that we use to keep track of all these things, has said that Puerto Rico has a potential commitment to sending a new physician delegate this year. They didn't realize that the Academy, the American Academy of Family Physicians, AAFP, they actually sponsor or give money to the chapters for a new physician to pay for their travel, and so could be some fun times there with the delegate from Puerto Rico. And I am looking forward to that. I did put out a challenge, and none of them have accepted it. If any of the listeners,
a challenge! Yes. The challenge, the convener's challenge.
Drop the gauntlet here. Smacking them across the face with my glove. I said, if anyone can get a delegate from Guam, then I will buy them their beverage of choice. For me, it's water tonight, but for them, it's whatever they choose. I will buy them a large container of their beverage of choice, and they can, and I will present it to them at the conference. But they have to convince someone from Guam to come. So anybody that's listening, if you have friends in Guam or folks in Guam, I extend that challenge even beyond the co-conveners. If we can get somebody from Guam to come and represent, that would be phenomenal. We want as many people as we possibly can to get through those doors and represent and have a voice. And the more representation we have, the better that we can see what all of our members are really talking about, not just the vocal majority or the vocal minority.
So the FM Revolution Guam Challenge from the convener, has been set February 3, 2016. The beverage of choice to get the representation from, and we're not talking about hundreds of people. One
person.
One family doctor.
One family doctor. If you can get one family doctor through the door, I will do it. Interesting fun fact: my roommate during one of my family and my wife, who actually went a couple of years after I did, I went to a summer program when I was a junior in high school here in the state of Kentucky. They call Governor Scholars. My wife calls it Nerd Camp.
Nice.
But my roommate there was fascinated by Guam. And so we had several different, we had fun fact of the day about Guam every day. And one thing that I did not know, but I have carried with me since that time, is people from Guam, they have multiple different things that they prefer to be called, but the most commonly listed, at least this is according to my roommate, is Guamanian. So I thought that was an awesome extension to put on the end of that on the end of the name of that country. So any Guamanians listening, any Guamanian family physicians listening, you have my personal invitation to come to NCCL. And if you have concerns or questions about getting there, or what would happen there, or how to make it happen, contact me either via Twitter at Dr. Tolbert, or through Facebook, or through the Academy. All my information is available on the Academy website. I am more than happy to help. So there's your challenge.
Guamanians. But we should get t-shirts. I am Gerry's Guamanian. Where is my drink? How about that?
I am Guamanian. I think
that's a hashtag. Hashtag
Guamanian.
I am Guamanian. AAFP NCCO.
That's getting a bit long. You don't have any characters left for an actual tweet.
And we talked about it on the previous show. The super secret communication that the cool kids electronically are going to be using. Gerry, what you talk about Slack again when you're not muted?
Yeah, sorry. I was singing the Cool Kids song, the Echo Smith song, Cool Kids. But you don't want to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. So Slack is a communication program that we use and that Mike and I have been using to communicate. We did some sharing of show notes beforehand here, and we've been trying to get as many new physicians and NCACL constituency members into the Slack group to have more conversations in real time or even asynchronously. If you got questions about the Slack group, same connection points, don't hesitate to drop me a line and we'll get you connected.
And let's see what else. Registration deadline.
Yes.
Save $50 when you register by March 29, afp.org/leader.
Correct.
And that saves you $50. And you too, when you do that, you too can buy the Guamanian, probably more than one beverage with $50. You know what I mean?
On the beverage, I guess. You can buy a single malt scotch there for $50.
My cough button. All right. So, all right. So let's move on here on the program, and Gerry brought this up here. So, kind of our interesting topic, or kind of more practice management type topic, and something that's really getting a lot of talk, not only in the primary care and family medicine world, but also in the general medicine health policy type of thing, as far as payment models. And for people who don't know, especially in the general population, how we get paid, or how.
Does anyone really know how we get paid?
I don't really know how we got paid, but
the payment fairy comes and waves her magic wand over everything.
But that's great, because it's going to change. So, whatever I didn't learn the first time, I'm going to try to learn this time. And they have at least they have interesting names, like MIPS. I'm awaiting the creativity of the internet to come up with alternate names for MIPS and MACRA. And all that stuff. There's a post on AFP.org from, let's see, what is this? The In the Trenches blog, I believe, which has
Sean Martin does the In the Trenches blog. It's an advocacy and policy blog that the AFP has, kind of like our Fresh Perspectives New Physician blog and the Leaders blog for board members and other leaders of the Academy.
So I presume you went through this here, Gerry. Is that right?
I try to read that stuff as much as I don't like politics or advocate. I mean, I like advocating. I'm not a big fan of advocacy. It's not my bag. So I'm not very good at it. Excuse me.
Well, why don't you if you don't mind, kind of a little bit take the lead on this and talk about you have to get really granular in things, but to start somewhere. And I think it's an interesting topic. I'm really resistant on learning a lot of this stuff, but I know I have to. So kind of what was your take, and more interesting, kind of what was why it's important and some of the reaction that you've seen out there on
Yeah,
this.
we'll get to the reaction. So basically this last year, the Academy was a part of a group that got Medicare and the government, the Congress, to repeal a payment system that was known as the SGR, the Sustainable Growth Rate. And if you, over the last few years, have heard about payment cuts for physicians, for Medicare payments, that is trying to think of the best way to put it. That the Sustainable Growth Rate basically said at each tier of payment each year, there was going to be some kind of change, whether that was a positive or a negative, usually a cut to maintain budget. There would be a cut to all payments that were made out for Medicare services. So they would try to get the same services would be worth less to the physician each year going forward in order to maintain a zero-sum budget, which never happened. But the goal was to try to minimize cost increases and deprecate the cost of certain services as time went by. It's a far oversimplified version of that. The SGR was incredibly complex. It was arcane and it did not work. It was actually a nightmare. After repealing, they had to have something to replace it because they've got to determine how they're going to remain budget neutral, which doesn't happen and never is going to happen, but that's what they want. And so it was replaced with MIPS and MACRA, or as I like to call it, the MIPS MACRA. You can lay the SMACRA down. But
nice. I like that. I like that. It's good.
MIPS
and MACRA. So it's like a movie.
I guess it could be a buddy cop movie, MIPS and MACRA.
Yeah.
Hey, MIPS, what are you doing today? I'm going to go shoot some bad guys.
MIPS.
Well, MACRA, what do you think we need to do? Anyway, MIPS, merit-based incentive payment system. So basically, for those of you that are physicians, when I say the words meaningful use, do not throw tomatoes. Meaningful use as a concept was a great idea. In implementation, it has been a nightmare for some folks. It's been okay for others, and it just depends on how fluent in the system that they've created you are to some degree. There are a lot of folks that don't feel comfortable with it for whatever reason, and there are lots of folks that aren't comfortable with a lot of the different pieces involved in what we do. So it's different strokes for different folks, as they say. As far as MIPS goes, it is a system that is laid out looking at, as it says in the name, merit. So there are 4 components to the MIPS system: quality, resource utilization, meaningful use, and clinical practice improvement. If you have a chance to look at the article that Sean Martin put out, it goes through a lot of the details, but the thumbnail sketch version is they will use a combination of physician quality measures, physician resource utilization, how closely you are approaching meaningful use guidelines, which are going to change, but how they are going to change is still up in the air. So there's a lot of details about all of this stuff that are fuzzy, but just bear with me. And then clinical practice improvement. So how are you improving clinical practice outcomes? If you're participating in PCMH, that's an automatic get for you because PCMH, patient-centered medical home, is an incentive program designed to encourage better clinical outcomes and better clinical practices to improve patient care. So it is automatically, that's sort of going to be the bar that they have set for clinical practice improvement. Quality is difficult to measure, and I actually wrote a blog post for the New Physician Fresh Perspectives blog a few months back that talked about measuring quality and how do you really measure quality, and can you really measure quality? How many factors are you looking at there, and how can you simplify that down to 2 or 3 numbers? And the short answer for those of you that are wondering was no. It is really, really tricky. And so the last piece that we haven't really touched on is resource utilization, which basically means how much are you spending? And if you are spending too much money on things, and this is not just a judgment call. There is a objective measure of cost that is involved. Are you ordering unnecessary tests? Are you doing things that while they sound exciting, aren't really changing patient outcomes, aren't really changing things for your patient, aren't helping your patient. If you're doing those things, you are going to lose points. And then the tough part, and the part that is probably the most, not necessarily confusing, but frustrating for me, is the explanation of how that is all going to be measured. They're basically going to take everyone, stack them up on those numbers, look at the percentages across the board for all physicians that participate in Medicare. They're going to figure out where the middle of that group is, and that is the bar that you have to meet in order to get a payment increase. And below that bar, the 50% of people that are below that bar will actually get a decrease in their reimbursement for their next year's Medicare reimbursements.
So they take all these people,
everybody,
people
every physician
who choose to participate in this thing, and
in
they
Medicare,
put
not just this thing, Medicare.
This in Medicare. Okay, all right, I got it. And then so they put them on a big bar graph thing, and they split it into, and if you're above whatever number they put, I presume 50th percentile or something like that, then you will get. It
is a percentile, yeah.
You will get a little bit of an increase in your payment. If you're below that, then you will get a cut. Is that?
Yeah, the percentages adjust from year to year. This doesn't take effect until 2019. And so in 2019, the max increase or decrease is 4%. It's 5% in 2020, 7% in 2021, and 9% in 2022.
But they're accumulating some of the data like now, right? I mean,
2017 is when they're probably going to start collecting. It's got a 2-year backward-looking data collection. So basically, they look at the previous 2 years to determine what your statistical placement on that line is going to be. So performance in 2017, 2018 is what's going to determine what happens in 2019.
But probably, maybe we don't even know yet. Fiscal 2017, which is actually calendar fall 2016.
September of this year. And it's possible. It depends. And honestly, there's not even a guarantee they're going to do that. That's just the assumption that's being made, because they say that there's going to be a maximum of 2 years backward looking. So they can't penalize you for something you're doing right now, but this fall, there could be things that could be contributing to the actual statistics they're using. I have 2 big concerns with this, and then I'll let you kind of weigh in. My biggest concern is, are they measuring these numbers? And I can't find an answer. I've asked a couple of people and I haven't gotten an answer, and I've looked in a couple places, several places, and you can't find it. I don't even know if they've made a decision yet about how they're going to do it. But are they measuring everybody that's in Medicare against everybody else that's in Medicare to find that line in the middle? Because if they are, it's kind of an unfair measurement. There are different specialties that utilize Medicare in different proportions and in different ways. And if the line is drawn using all medical specialties and subspecialties, it's going to be a really tricky thing for everybody involved. So I don't see anywhere where they've mentioned breaking it down by specialty, which is probably one of the best ways to do things. The second piece is, I guess the best way to put it is, if they're going to have a 50th percentile number, that means that there will always be half of the physicians in the country that are getting a payment cut. And it makes me wonder, if that line is drawn, especially using everybody, if there are people that are going to have good outcomes that still get penalized because their outcomes weren't good enough. And that's tricky. I mean, how do you set that minimum bar? There is no minimum bar according to what we're seeing so far, but is there a way to set a minimum bar that above that level you are going to at least be neutral? Is there a gray zone in the middle where you don't get a cut or a bonus? Because that seems like it would be a much fairer way. Now, the problem, unfortunately, is that the term fair is a totally subjective term. And so we all get to decide what is fair and what is not fair. We're supposed to all agree on that, but you try to get 2 people to agree on anything remotely relating to Medicare, and I will buy you a beverage of your choice.
And kind of the reason for this was you mentioned the sustainable growth rate, which was not sustainable, and kind of this shift from getting payment for doing things to getting paid for this mysterious quality type of thing, and they're breaking it down to clinical quality, um, uh, how you're utilizing the system as far as how much stuff are you ordering,
How much are you spending?
how much are you spending, and are they going to be using some of these numbers already as far as what was kind of some meaningful use type of things and some things that are already in place?
So meaningful use is probably going to change drastically. I shouldn't say drastically. It's probably going to change significantly over the next 2 years as they work toward MIPS. They've been waffling. If you read the information that's coming out about meaningful use right now, initially there were statements over the last couple of months or a few weeks ago, there were statements that meaningful use was going away completely. Then they came back and said, well, no, that's not really what we meant. That's what we said, but it's not what we meant. Meaningful use as you know it is not going to be the same. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, it's going to change. And that's really as far as they've gotten so far. There haven't been any specific discussions of the actual real changes and what the real world implications of those changes are going to be. I will say right now that there is no way that they're not going to keep some components that are already in existence. Having physicians utilizing EHR records, utilizing them correctly, and utilizing them in a way that allows for data collection is not going away. That is why we have electronic medical records in the first place. And that is a big part of, if the government is going to subsidize or help physicians to obtain medical records, which is what the whole meaningful use program was supposed to be about, you have to show that you're using it the right way. And that's part of the problem, is that they don't, I say they, there are a lot of people that don't want someone else to define the right way. And that's a problem, because you can't, it's kind of like anatomy. Remember how we were in anatomy and there was only one answer to the test question most of the time?
Yes, and I always got it wrong.
Yeah, I did a lot of the times. Not all the times, but a lot of the times. And so there was still only one right answer, though. And so there are some absolutes when it comes to what, the bare minimum of what you should be doing with a medical record, especially an electronic medical record, needs to be. That's where HIPAA exists. That's where high tech exists. That's where, meaningful use was originated. There are things that need to be put in place, and you have to draw the line somewhere. You have to draw the line somewhere. Otherwise, there's no point in even having a process, because if it's all willy-nilly and everybody gets to decide what they want, you're never going to get anywhere. So from that standpoint, there has to be a line drawn. There have to be your guidelines. There has to be something in place. I'm not saying that the ones that exist now are the ones that need to be there. In fact, there are several that are kind of ludicrous. But there are others that are actually very good that get maligned just as much as the ones that are very bad. And so that's why we kind of have to be careful when it comes to meaningful use. And then clinical practice improvement, all of these terms that they're using, quality, resource utilization, meaningful use, clinical practice improvement, they're made up terms. I mean, they have.
Nobody knows.
Right. Well, they haven't defined them.
Nobody really knows what it really means. They're just making up stuff.
Well, they haven't defined it. And that's part of the problem, is that that's what happened with meaningful use. They came up with this idea for meaningful use. That was a great idea. But then when they started defining their terms, the definitions made it much less a great idea. And so that's what we're afraid is going to happen here, is that when they start defining resource utilization, well, does that mean that you ordered an X-ray when you should have ordered, a dog to come sniff them? What's the cutoff? What's the definition? What's the decision? We keep getting pinged.
Real-time feedback.
I know, we keep getting pinged.
We have one viewer that keeps in and out, and I think it's our good friend Kim Yu, and she's saying on the messages here, they need to adjust for socioeconomic factors to which they don't. I mean, there's a lot of things that they're just going to be difficult to factor in or impossible to factor in on these kind of numbers.
Well, and here's the thing. And the video viewers will see this, but audio listeners won't. I'm holding up my cell phone, and I'm getting ready to ask Mike a question, so unmute yourself because you're going to answer me. Do you have one of these?
Yes.
Cell phone. Do you know what this is?
It's a cell phone.
Okay. But do you know what it really is?
It's a cell phone.
It's a computer.
It's a computer.
It's a computer that just happens to make phone calls. I mean, when was the last time you talked on your cell phone to actually talk? Most people don't. But anyway, it is a computer. It is a more powerful computer than most of the machines that we have sitting on our desks. And definitely the machines we had sitting on our desks 10 years ago. It is not difficult to collect and parse data if people will put it in. People are the breakdown point there. We can collect that data. We can collect socioeconomic data. We can collect information. But without data collection, we can't make a decision. We can't have a calculation.
But it's a series of steps, though. I mean, it's data collection. It's shifting that data somewhere so somebody can look at it. Yeah, collation of the data.
And I agree with that. But that is to be brutally honest, if it's done correctly, that's the easy part. The setup going into it is the hard part, and that's what Kim is referring to. If they go into this and say, listen, when you create your EHR, when it gets certified, because there's this whole certification program that EHRs have to go through. As part of that certification program, if there are a set of qualifications that have to be met, it has to be able to do X, Y, and Z. It has to label data in this certain manner. It can be used and collated just like that. People don't like to so there are lots of problems. The biggest ones that I see, people don't like to be told what to do. And private industry is making these EHRs, and so they don't want somebody to come in and say, you have to do this X, Y, or Z way.
Yep.
So that happens. The second is hospitals and other people that are buying these EHRs don't want to spend the money to get all of the pieces of the EHR. So you get a fraction of what you really should be using. The pieces that actually do all the heavy lifting, nobody buys. And so the companies are making those pieces. Epic has huge sets of modules that will do all of that stuff that we are talking about right now. It will collect the data, it will collate it, it will parse it even, and spit out reports.
But it costs money.
But it costs money and time and people. It's actually, my mom actually does reporting for Epic. She's in charge of meaningful use for Catholic Health Partners here in Cincinnati. And she does a lot of the database reporting. She's a computer person, and she went through training for Epic to be able to do all of those reports, to generate those reports, and to do it in a way that gives it meaningful information. It exists.
Yeah, I mean, even outside of the medical industry, I mean, kind of being a data miner is like the #1 job in 2016, across all industries. I read somewhere. I mean, there's all this data like everywhere which is kind of scary, actually.
Well, I mean, so that's like saying that we're all surrounded by chemicals, and that's scary. So you have to kind of be careful with how you overplay that. Water is a chemical. Dihydrogen monoxide, causes more deaths than a lot of other substances that we know about. Drownings and all kinds of horrible things. But the problem is, data by itself is not dangerous. It's how you use it that becomes dangerous. There are people that can use it for nefarious purposes, but we can also use it to make things way better. That's how we operate as physicians. We collect data. And as we collect that data, as we get more information, our hypotheses, our educated guesses, if you will, our differential diagnosis, to use a medical term, becomes more accurate. It narrows down the list until we get to the final answer that we are going to give, as good or as bad as that might be. And we have to have data in order to make those decisions. We collect data, we run experiments, we collect data from those experiments, and then we refine our hypothesis, and we keep going back over and over and over again through that loop. And so the same thing happens here. We have all of these pieces of information about performance, about physician. I can't even come up with a good word. We have data that we collect and could collect easily about resource utilization. I can tell you how many CT scans I ordered in the last 6 months. But that's because I don't order a whole lot of CT scans. I use them when I know we need them, but I'm not going to just order a CT scan on anybody that asks for one. I can count on one hand the number of CT scans I've ordered in the last 6 months, because I don't have patients that need them that often. That doesn't mean that there aren't physicians that do, but in my practice, it's just not something that comes up. Because of that, it's really easy for me to collect that data. If I were a neurologist or an orthopedist, determining the amount of imaging that I do on a regular basis on Medicare patients would be a nightmare if I were trying to do it on my own. And that's where computer-based systems come in, and that's where collecting the data comes in. Somebody somewhere is collecting those numbers. You know they are.
Right.
So why can't we all just talk to each other? Why can't we all get along? If you
would. So starting to close up this topic a little bit. I mean, I think family docs are perfectly kind of positioned to be at the forefront of this, especially kind of all those docs who are, really doing things like PCMH, who kind of know their own data already, and I guess one of the things that docs, especially family docs, can do in preparing for this kind of payment model is to kind of do your own numbers for yourself, which a lot of docs don't do because they're either don't have time or intimidated. But kind of drilling down and knowing either your own physician numbers or your group numbers or your community numbers. Those are things that you can start to learn right now. And then when the clock really starts, then you're kind of be better positioned to know where you're at and what improvements you need to do, and basically just how to get paid. Does that sound?
Yeah,
sound close.
I forgot I was on mute. No, yeah, I think that you're hitting the nail on the head. It is mostly about being aware and not being afraid. As you said, I mean, there's an intimidation factor. I shouldn't have to collect numbers. I'm a doctor. Well, that's only partly true. It's like anything else that we do. You want to be well versed in the things that are going to be integral to you doing your job. And these days, that is part of doing the job.
All right. I mean, I'm still reading a lot of this stuff, and like you said, Gerry, I mean, a lot of this stuff really hasn't been defined yet. I mean, we're just kind of in a definition stage as far as this is what the term is, or this is what we think the term is. We haven't defined it. We haven't have all the specifics yet. And I know, AFP and a lot of other organizations are going to be at the forefront of this, and it's going to be, unfortunately, Gerry, people like you and I who are going to be not teaching people, but we're going to be reading what the smart people are writing and
reading it out loud for other people.
That's right. And amplifying their message, because I'm just really confused.
Yeah, no, I think there are going to be a lot of smart people, a lot of people smarter than me that are going to be kind of parsing that stuff out for us, and being in touch with those people and paying attention to those people is a good idea.
All right, so let's this show is, again, Gerry, it's moving very quickly. So let's move forward here on the program, and we're gonna start to close things up here as far as talking about some lighter topics. Today, of course, is February 3, 2016, and if you're on social media and you're anywhere in the medical space, you saw your social media accounts blowing up today, talking about. I'm going to get this right. National Women Physicians Day, and it kind of creeped on me, up on me, Gerry, because it just kind of come up in the last, maybe at least in my feed, Facebook and Twitter, probably in the last couple of days. You're seeing a pretty good social media campaign. A lot of people changing their pictures or their IDs on Twitter and Facebook. But just to give a little bit of background for people out there, February 3 is the birthday of Elizabeth Blackwell, the first woman to receive her MD from an American medical school in 1849. She is best known for her tireless support of medical education for women and her public reform work. And this is there's a lot of articles, but I'm reading here from the Huffington Post. It is also the day that Physicians Mom Group, a nonprofit organization about 50,000 women, is declaring National Women's Physicians Day. This day would celebrate all the significant contributions that women physicians make daily, none of which would have been possible without Elizabeth Blackwell.
Can I hear something funny? I didn't know this, but I just randomly clicked. Her sister, Emily Blackwell, was the second woman to earn a medical degree at Case Western Reserve University.
Yeah.
That's a pretty awesome family right there.
Wow. Like, how did they come up with that? Just, yep, I'm doing it. And then they just did it. And this is, 1850. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very cool.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I think I was reading I don't know, maybe this was the first day of this, because I don't remember this a year ago. I don't know if some groups kind of put this together, or they had better marketing this year.
They
But
had a Facebook frame photo thing.
Yeah, I don't remember this coming out last year, but
I remember seeing it because I don't think it was a Google Doodle, but I think somebody else was talking about Elizabeth Blackwell, and it popped up in my Time Hop app. For those of you that don't use that app, it's a great way to look back over the course of your social media and see what you did on this day in history. But it popped up that in my Twitter feed from last year that there was a celebration of Elizabeth Blackwell's birthday. So it is something that has been celebrated, rightly so. It's an amazing feat to at that time to have become a doctor as a woman, for sure. It wasn't all Dr. Quinn and some of the
wait. It wasn't all Dr. Quinn medicine woman? Is that what you're saying?
No. The only thing I remember from Dr. Quinn medicine woman, this is bad. I remember Sully and his wolves, but the only thing I remember was that she had a patient that came in that was anemic, and she told her she needed to boil some rusty nails and drink the water. And so I still use that with my patients today as a joke. I said, well, we could write you a prescription for iron, or you could just boil some rusty nails and drink the water.
How's that go over with? Do people understand it? Do they get it?
Most of them just chuckle and move on. But
and shout out to all our female physician colleagues who are doing an awesome job out there on social media. I'm seeing all kind of pictures and out there and celebrating the day.
Yeah,
and it's a good time. It's a good
time.
Yeah,
well, Kim was talking about her group last week. Kim, since you're listening, you need to send me the details on that, because I can't remember I can never remember what it's called. But the female physicians group for mothers, for family physicians that are mothers, that Kim is a part of, that went from 0 to 8,000 in a month or whatever. Huge group that is really a huge part of the academy and a huge part of primary care and family medicine.
So the other thing that is kind of big this week, especially in kind of the mainstream media, is this Zika virus that I'm seeing more and more. I saw some stories probably over the past maybe month or so, but over the past maybe 5 to 7 days, lots and lots more stories about it. And for people who don't know, it is an illness that is transmitted to humans from a particular mosquito. And the big headline is that it can cause birth defects, specifically microcephaly, I believe, is what they say. And the story until now has been, and it's still mainly kind of a travel story. So preventing people, or giving a heads up to people if you're going to certain countries, and it's on cdc.gov because those countries are there.
Mm-hmm.
But starting to get a little bit more cases here in the United States, mainly of people who have traveled outside the United States to those places. But in the past couple of days, there have been some stories, and this is when everybody kind of starts to pay attention. Zika has been sexually transmitted in Texas, CDC confirms. And then today, Gerry, I start to get questions about this thing, and it's just, you're probably getting some questions about this too, aren't you?
Yeah. In the last couple of days, it's really picked up. The CDC put out an announcement about Zika virus and about it being a international issue. They put out an alert, and that usually catches media attention, which then drives a lot of those questions. The Aedes mosquito also transmits dengue and chikungunya, and so lots of arboviruses that we deal with. Actually, they're not arboviruses. It's flaviviruses that we deal with. a lot of these things that we see in these tropical climates, it's a big deal. Anybody that's ever had breakbone fever or had chikungunya will tell you that these things are not fun even in themselves. But then when you start adding in things like birth defects and you start attacking pregnant women, it becomes more of an emotional thing than just a biological hazard. And it's big news. And so we definitely want to put as much effort into restricting transmission as possible, talking about all the different things that we can potentially do to help that. But it's a lot like Ebola was here in the United States when it comes to this.
I mean at least from the media coverage and how it's kind of flowing,
right?
It's kind of what's happening.
And that's not a bad thing necessarily. It raises awareness, but at the same time, the actual risk of transmission in this area is incredibly low. It's just not, the Aedes mosquito can get far enough north to cause trouble in the United States, but it's just not the season for it. Now, as the spring progresses, that may become a much bigger deal, but it is not a common thing by any stretch.
So one of the things that can happen, and I wonder what's going to happen, especially at the local level, is that is there going to be kind of education on this before the temperatures get warmer, especially in the springtime as we flow into summertime? Is this kind of mosquito hysteria going to start brewing in the next few months? And that's going to be interesting to kind of see. And I'm going to gauge that as far as, from my standpoint, as far as how many questions am I going to be getting in the next few weeks, especially as the weather gets warmer, as far as where is that on people's radar? Do they care about the story?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great barometer for where we stand. It's I don't know. It's going to be again, like I said, it's going to be very similar to the whole issue with Ebola. There will be people that are at risk. There will be people that we need to make sure that we're checking on. There will also be a whole lot of people that are really afraid of it, that have absolutely no chance of catching Zika, even if it walks up and sneezes on them.
Mosquitoes sneeze, do they? The other question that I got from all my very intelligent Facebook friends, you know who you are. I posted a story on my Facebook thing about sexual transmission of Zika, and they said, of course, who's having sex with mosquitoes, right? Yeah.
Well, and you definitely don't want to engage in outdoor activities
with mosquitoes
or around mosquitoes for that matter.
Yeah.
So Kim sent me a message. It's physician moms and family medicine.
Yeah, real-time feedback.
Yeah. So sorry to jump topics. I wanted to go to something a little bit more normal. Anyway, go.
No. I got that too. Physician moms and family medicine. We are banned from that Facebook group. I think that's discriminatory. I think it's unfair.
Do not even go there. The opinions expressed by Mike Sevilla in the last 45 seconds are the opinions only of Mike Sevilla and do not represent the opinions of everyone represented on this podcast, nor do they reflect any of the opinions of the American Academy of Family Physicians. They're the disclaimer.
Thanks for saving me.
And I'm going to step back from you here just a little bit and let you just hang.
This is the awkward pause part of the show.
You're the only one that's being awkward. I'm not. You can have all of that.
I'm expecting a phone call here in a few minutes. Kim, we love you. You're awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. You can have it. I'm good.
So speaking of travel there, Gerry, speaking of travel, one of the places that is not on that list is the great city of Miami, Florida.
Not on the list of what?
Not on the list of where not to go. That's not a travel ban place, at least not for Zika. Maybe it's for other things.
Yes.
Currently, maybe it's a travel ban for other things, but not for Zika.
Right now in the Americas, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Haiti. Those are probably the closest, and Mexico, of course, are probably the closest that we're gonna get to the United States.
And the reason I mentioned Miami is that Gerry and me and Kim and some other really awesome family medicine leaders are going to be there for a conference, as I put up the air quotes for the people listening on audio. Yes, it is a leadership conference. The 10-state leadership conference in Miami, Florida. It's going to be coming up in a couple weeks. And we're going to be learning a lot of stuff there, Gerry. Don't you think?
I hope so.
And put together by good friends from the Indiana chapter who had the brilliant idea of having a winter conference in Florida. Not only Florida, South Florida. And we love them for that.
Leave it to someone from Indiana or from the Midwest to come up with that idea. I mean, I guess that's the appropriate response to Midwestern winter.
Exactly. So what Kim and Gerry and me are going to be talking about, I mean, we're not putting on a conference there, but we're going to be basically, doing some cool social media stuff and maybe recording some things and maybe some promotions for things like NCCL or other type of things on the beach. And I feel bad, kind of talking about it and rubbing it into people, but I kind of don't.
All these questions about why I'm going to the beach in February and leaving my family behind, and
Gerry's not going to leave the hotel. He's going to stay in there.
True. I catch on fire when I go out in the sun. What are you talking about?
He's going to stay in and work. He's going to learn all that he can.
Yes.
How's that? Did you have to back up from the microphone again, Gerry?
No, actually, that one was actually a good cat. That you saved yourself. You have redeemed yourself.
No,
not necessarily with the women, but with me.
No, I'm going to say something stupid anyway. Eventually.
Well, I said redeemed. I didn't say preserved.
Nice. And also coming up this weekend, actually tomorrow. Going to be flying out to the great city of Kansas City with a lot of our family medicine leaders because this weekend will be the huge AAFP committee / commission cluster weekend.
Really big shoe.
Really big, where the committees and commissions come together and we do our work, hang out with the peeps. And it's always good to catch up with the peeps. And
I like peeps.
And we're going to be talking about things, especially like the NCCL, the upcoming NCCL meeting, which I'm not allowed to talk about. But we will, and because I'll get in really big trouble if I reveal any of that. But it'll be fun. Have you been on commission before, haven't you?
I have. I was on COE when I was a student because I was the student delegate to the Congress of Delegates.
Exactly.
So that's the only commission I've ever been on. I've had other positions, but most of them have been more for either NCCL specifically, co-convener and delegate positions, a little more with COD. So not stuff that I was a regional coordinator for family medicine interest groups, and that I went to the cluster meetings for that, but there's not a ton of cluster stuff that I've really done.
That's all right. There's always opportunities there coming up. So
well, and they're always in Kansas City, so I'm always like, I go to Kansas City 2 or 3 times a year. I don't need 2 or 3 times more.
I know. Back in the day, we used to go to nice places for.
Oh, I mean, there's nothing wrong with Kansas City. I like going there, especially now. It's gotten a lot better over the last decade. But
still, maybe not in February.
And that's kind of what I was referring to. Yeah, I wasn't really going to go there, but yeah, it's kind of might not be the best place to go in February.
So that'll be fun. That'll be fun to see the peeps. And Kim is yelling at us.
She's laughing at us.
Because we love her because she's the only one that's watching. So that's cool. And I'll probably get a whole feedback session
At the cluster meeting.
Probably.
Just so what day is that?
So our commission, the commission of them all, membership and member services, we meet on Friday.
So the 5th.
Friday the 5th.
Okay. So here's the weather. It's a good thing you're going Friday through Sunday. So 49 for a high, 30 for a low, 48 for a high, 36 for a low, 50 for a high, 30 for a low. So not too different from here. Monday, 36 for a high, 14 for a low.
Woohoo!
Good news is no snow during that span.
Yes, there will be no huge blizzards going through Kansas and Missouri, hopefully.
Doesn't look like it. Mostly East Coast stuff.
Or through Chicago.
Yeah, that's the one where you can't guarantee.
Right. Yeah. Let's see here.
I think we hit all the high points, right?
I think we hit all the high points here. So the last thing I wanted to mention is I want to talk about a good friend of mine who is retiring, or who has retired from the practice of medicine. You lucky dog. Our good friend Dr. Ross Black, and I learned about it from social media because I saw some pictures from people who were saying, "Hey, happy retirement," and I was like, "What?" So Ross I've known for a long time, and he was actually one of the first family medicine leaders that I met when I was a medical student. And came to our club meetings, family medicine interest group meetings, and really kind of struck up a friendship over the past few years. And when I was going through kind of my starting leadership things, he was on the AFP board of directors, and really gave me a lot of insight on how organized medicine works, how the academy works. When I was a student or even a resident, I got to see his practice, got to see him in the nursing home setting, how he does that, and just really has been a mentor of mine for my entire professional career. And it was kind of sad seeing those announcements that he retired, and so I just want to give a big shout out to our good friend Ross Black, who is probably going to be going out and doing some more awesome things out there. And I don't know if you do a little screen share there, Gerry. Trying to.
That's the best picture I could find in short notice.
There you go. See, look at it. Yeah, there he is. Yeah, that's probably a board of directors picture, I would think.
Probably just looking at the background there. His hopefully he will have some time to have some fun. It's always good to see physicians that have done so much get a chance to kind of take a little bit of a break. We're not good at it. And I guess I shouldn't say that way, because that makes me sound like a physician who's done so much for medicine. Physicians in general are not good at taking breaks a lot of times. And so the doctors that contribute a ton and do a lot of work, it's hard for them sometimes to slow down. So hopefully he won't get too bored.
Yeah, exactly. And, and if I could pass on, half of what I learned to the medical students and residents and high school students and community people that he has taught me, then I would have at least tried to carry on the tradition of family medicine. So here's to you, Ross Black. You are the man. I know he's probably going to yell at me for this tribute to him, because obviously he didn't die. he's still around. He's still around. He's going to yell at me. What are you doing?
I'm not dead yet.
Exactly. He got out, Gerry.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'd like to go for a walk.
We're jealous because he got out. So take us with you.
I am one of those people that definitely you read about or you hear about people talking about how the system is backwards and you should retire when you're young so you can actually enjoy it and then work until you're old and then just die. I think that's a good way to do it. I think we should all be retired until we're about 35 and then go to work.
Exactly. All right, that's all I have there, Gerry. Another great program tonight, and I'm sure we'll get feedback from our good friend Kim, who is either
whether we want it or not.
either asleep, she's angry, or she's laughing, and probably all of the above. And I will see her this weekend there, Gerry, for the cluster.
I am slightly jealous that you will be hanging out with all those people, but I will see you in a couple of weeks, and I'm sure we will talk long before then.
Exactly. Yeah. We may even have a show next week. Even before Miami, and of course we'll be chatting before then. So, anything going on with the Geek Dad there, Gerry? Before you go? Oh, he's already gone. He's done with me. He's out of here. So I will close up here as Dr. Mike Sevilla. Hey, check me out, drmikesevilla.com, and also follow me on Twitter, Dr. Mike Sevilla. And we will say good night here. We'll see everybody later.